Hey everyone, just a few quick notes before the show starts. I have to let my guests tell their stories, but on this one I should have stepped in a little bit earlier than I did because I'm still figuring this out. It got off to a slow start, and there are a few important nuggets of dialogue between the 20 and 30-minute marks. But I step in with a heavier hand at about 32 minutes in. And I realize that might leave you wondering, well, why didn't you edit it differently? And that's because maintaining the integrity of the show is important to me. I do spend a lot of time cleaning up the audio and post-production, but moving things around like that loses context, and I think it's disingenuous, and I don't want this to become a show that does that. So if you feel that lull in the beginning, feel free to skip to either of the aforementioned points, either about 20 minutes in or, more importantly, 32 minutes in. But without further ado, here is episode 6 of Going In Blind. Welcome to Going In Blind. I'm your host, Zach Tidwell, and this week I'm speaking with self-proclaimed prophet, Thomas Jones. Thomas, thanks for coming on the show, man. After going back and forth with your assistant, I knew you were busy once I found out that you had an assistant, but especially even when we were trying to lock down a time to do this podcast, in the time between our emails going back and forth, your schedule had changed. So I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and talk for a little bit.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's definitely a lot that's going on right now. So yeah, it's kind of got me all over the place right now. But I'm glad that we can connect.
Yes, sir. So I start these episodes with a little introduction. So for everyone at home, this is Thomas Jones. He's AKA the woke prophet, and he's got a book by the same title that I'm sure we'll get into today. But he's a prophet. He runs his own business in terms of providing services for others. And there's a whole lot that this man has going on in his life, and we're going to dive into it all today. But before we get into that, I do want to take a second and say that I haven't partaken in any of his services and am not endorsing them. We are here. I'm very curious about his story, and this is purely a conversation between two guys. So, Thomas, because we do have so much to talk about today, I know that you had experiences as a child that might kind of foreshadow some of what was to come, but I would like to start at the point in time when things seem to really pick up and become more substantial in your life. If you'd like to carry people through maybe your injury as a longshoreman and how your experience as a prophet began.
Okay. All right. So yeah, as you stated, I used to be a longshoreman. For those of you who don't know what a longshoreman is, I used to work at the docks with loading and unloading. So that's what we did, import and export. So my job, I was a crane operator.
And this is off of big cargo ships and stuff like that, and trucks, correct?
Yes, it's correct. But my particular job at the time, I was working on the rail division. So I was working with the trains. So I was loading and unloading trains.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was loading containers. So this was in 2015. Yeah, December 2015. Really a period in my life that I had no idea that it would be, devastating and a lot of very traumatic, but also rewarding at the same time. Had no idea what transpired. So I just kind of get into that some. So that particular day at work, it was actually in the evening, and I was working. So again, I'm a crane operator, and I'm up in the air. I'm gonna say about, let's say 4 stories. I measured that way. It's about 4 stories in the air. So the space that I work in is no bigger than a small car. So just a very small car. I'm gonna say maybe a 2-seater car at that. So I'm in this space. There's no one up there but me. And of course, I have a radio to communicate back and forth. So I'm working. I'm a workaholic, kind of just always been that way. So I'm working, and the way you operate this crane, my feet rest on glass. So when I'm operating, I have to be bent over, looking between my legs, looking through this grass. I mean, not grass, but glass, as I'm loading the trucks.
That has to be
So,
so freaky.
oh yeah, so yeah, it takes some time to to get used to. So that's the position that you're kind of constantly in, just bent over, looking between your legs through this glass. So so I'm working and I'm loading trucks, and everything just happened so quickly. Next thing I know, it's like I felt one thump, then I felt another thump. All I remember is kind of water running down my face. And so I kind of looked up to figure out what was, trying to see what was happening. And I noticed that the air conditioner unit, the whole unit, it broke off the bracket. So what happened is it broke off the bracket, and the hose was still holding it, but it hit me in the head twice. So it was kind of just dangling there. So so I just kind of just sat there, and I'm just looking. Um, at the time I felt no pain. So I said, hey, no big deal. I'll call the mechanics. They'll come fix it. I'll just keep working, because our job, the mechanics, they come, but they're kind of slow. So I kept working. I would say maybe about 10, 15 seconds, I heard a voice, and it says, report the accident. So I kind of look around, even though I know there's nobody there, I'm kind of looking around like, where did that come from? So I said, okay, I'll ignore it. So I start working again. Another few seconds, heard the same voice, report the accident. So I kind of stopped, and I was like, I feel fine. I was like, plus we on overtime. I'm gonna go ahead and finish working. I'm gonna make this money. I'm gonna make this money. I'm okay. So I continued to work, and 30 seconds or less, I heard the same voice, but this time it's deeper and it's a lot of authority behind it. And it says, report the accident now. So I just stopped everything. I called, told my supervisor what happened. So the way this crane is, this particular crane didn't have an elevator, so it has like stairs. So I had to walk down these stairs. So I'm still feeling all right. So I get in, and he's asking me what's happening. So I told him what happened. So as we're driving, he's saying, are you okay? I said, well, yeah, I feel all right. It seems like as soon as I said that, I started to notice that my neck started to feel tight. Mm-hmm. So he takes me to the front. Of course, they call the ambulance, the paramedics or whatever. So they come, and they're asking me questions. They say, well, we need to take you to the emergency room so you can get checked out. So I go get checked out. They didn't see anything. But again, my muscles in my neck were feeling tight. So I remember the nurse telling me, she said, you're going to really feel this in a few days. So I'm looking at her like, gee, thanks for the motivation. So, so I'm like, yeah, I'm one of those guys, I could deal with pain pretty good. So I was like, I played a lot of sports. So I figured I'd be okay. So I went home and went to sleep. I just remember waking up the next morning. Oh man, it felt like my body, like I got beat, like I got ran over. I just remember opening my eyes. My eyes were so sensitive to light, and I was squinting the whole time because the light was really causing the issue. Then it's like everything started happening back to back. So I had this migraine, and so I said, here we go. So just to shorten that up, to move along, I had to go and speak with a specialist. So I got checked out. So they found torn disc in my neck. It seems like things just started progressing and started getting worse. They found like I had neurological issues. So it would sound like when someone was speaking with me, like a wire sound, like someone had a wire. There was a shortage, like a shortening in my ear. Again, my neck, the pain was just getting worse. My balance, I started having issues with my balance. I would be talking to some of my friends, and they would kind of get quiet. It was like, hey, you just said that. And I was like, what? It was like, yeah, you're repeating the same stuff. So I was repeating the same stuff and not knowing. So it affected my memory. as well. So,
Yeah, that's head
um,
injuries, man.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yep. So at this point, I'm going to doctor's appointments, getting injections in my neck, still trying a lot of different things. Nothing is, nothing is working. So I'm pretty much in the bed for about the first year and a half. So that's when a lot of the dreams started to happen.
I mean, because you obviously had a head injury, right? I mean, I've had concussions and a TBI, and all the light sensitivity, the nausea, the balance issues, that it's memory issues. These are all telltale signs of head injuries. But when I've gotten rocked before, I mean, it's pretty apparent at the time, like something's wrong. Did you? Was it? It sounds like it was more your neck than your head that was getting at you initially. Is that correct?
Right, right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. Yeah. So I didn't really feel too much that was going on with my head at the time. Yeah, it was concussion, and the discs were bulging, but eventually the disc tore. But where the discs were, it was so close to my spine. They were telling me, they was like, you have to be careful because if you slip and you fall the wrong way, you'll be paralyzed. So of course I'm walking around and really trying to watch that. So I'm a very active person. I do not like to sit around. So just the whole thing of having to, be in bed for this long, this was driving me crazy. So this really started to affect my mind. So when I say affect my mind, it would be times that I would pop up in the middle of the night. And don't ask me why, but I would think that someone was coming through my window. And this happened for probably about a month. I just kept jumping up, and I had this feeling like somebody was trying to come through the windows. I don't even know where it came from. So I said, okay, I had to get this together because something's playing with my mind. So I started having a lot of visions, a lot of dreams. And in these visions and these dreams, it was a lot of angels that were coming in. So these angels, they would come in and they were, just trying to uplift me. They was telling me that everything was going to be okay, stay strong, that sort of thing. Something else that I noticed, I started having these dreams and I was seeing different events, or just small things that were happening. And a day or two later, it would happen. So I was having that. That was happening a lot. Also, in the dreams, I had a dream with the Most High God. So, and in this dream, we're walking, we're holding hands, and I get this feeling. The feeling that I get with him, like that he's very, very busy. That's just what I feel. So, and I can see my mouth moving like I'm asking a lot of questions, but we're just walking. So he kind of had like a white gown on. And the strange part about it, I could not see the front of his face. I could only see the sides of his face.
But
So
like no defining features.
right. Yeah, I could not see. And I was standing directly in front of him. The front of his face looked blank, but I could only see the side and I could see everything else. And I was asking him, what was it that he wanted me to do? That was a question that I kept asking. And so he turned around and he kind of took his arms and he opened his arms, and all of this light just came out. It was just, it was brighter than the sun. This light came out, and when this light came out, I remember waking up, but it's like right when I was waking up, I heard, shine your light. I want you to shine your light. So I said, okay. I automatically knew that had something to do with healing. So I just started to, I'm gonna shorten this up because this went on for a long time. But in terms of the angels, I would always know when I'm about to see them because I would hear it. It was almost like a music, like a marching sound. And I would lie there and I said, okay, I'm about to see them. So some of them looked like they were like some type of shield, like shielding or something. It was gold, and they were flying and spinning. All right. So then I would see the normal ones that we see just with like regular wings. But then I also saw one, and this angel to me looked like kind of like a hybrid. Remind me of like an alien human. And it had no clothes on, and it was just floating in the air with all of this light coming from his back. And I remember I heard something calling my name, but I was looking at this angel because I was confused. It didn't look like a male, but it didn't look like a female. Like I said, it didn't have any clothes on, and it didn't have a vagina or penis or anything. So I'm just looking at it. So yes, I just went through that and was just seeing different different angels. Archangel Michael, I would always know when he was coming because I would always start seeing like a bluish, purplish color is what I would see.
And could you see their features? I mean, it sounds like they were all anthropomorphic in the sense that they at least had human-ish features, even if they were genderless. Like, could you make out their faces, even like you couldn't?
So I've only seen the faces a few times, but what I noticed when he came in, it's almost like I wouldn't be able to see from the chin up, but from the chin down, I could see everything. And this particular time, he had on like a chest plate. He had that on, and he had on this. I want to say it looks similar to like a skirt. You know how you see like some of the Scottish
like
guys?
The kilts, yeah.
Yeah. So he had that on, and he was just standing there. You could just tell the type of stance that he had. It was like a lot of power. You're not somebody standing with a lot of confidence. So he was just standing like that. And then my attention went to the back of him, and everything was smoky, and it was like a huge choir. I said it had to be about 50 or 60, but I only remember seeing all males, and they were just standing there.
Angels again?
Yeah, I felt like they were angels. I didn't see any wings or anything. They all had white gowns on, and they were standing there. So the feeling that I got that, this was like an army, because this was the type of war gear that he had. Then he showed himself again, and it was the same exact thing. Couldn't see his face. He was standing, and he shot up in the air so fast. And I remember saying, man, I never seen anything move that fast before. There was other times that I was with this particular angel, and it started off weird. I was in a truck with a guy, and he was driving in the beach. We was going under the water. I could actually see the bubbles and stuff coming up. And we go under the water, and I remember saying to myself, man, this is crazy. I can feel the water. So the scene changed, and it was like I was under the water, but I was somewhere. But anyway, I see this angel with red hair. He had a bracelet on, and he had that same, what did you call it? What did you call that?
A kilt?
Yeah, kilt. Okay, so he had the kilt on, and the same, like, not the exact same as Michael had, but it was like some type of breastplate. And so he was kneeling down on one knee. So I was standing. So he turned around. He said, kneel down for the Most High. Said it like he was kind of mad. So,
and is that where, because you mentioned that a lot, specific when you talk about being a prophet and on your website and things like that, you say the Most High God, and you even said it earlier. Is that where that came from?
Right. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that came. Yeah, and I'm gonna jump on that real quick too, because I can explain that. But so yeah, so he had a bracelet on. So he turned around. And he said, "Where's your bracelet at?" And I kind of looked like I was like, "I left it." He just gave me this look, and I saw the Most High coming from the back, but again, I saw his feet. He was coming from behind the curtain, like walking on the stage. And when he started to come, right when my eyes got to probably about where his chest was at, I woke up. So I used to be like, most people out here, where I would say Jesus or just say God, but I had another dream. And in this dream, I used to have a real bad gambling. I used to gamble real bad. So in this dream, I was in his house, and these guys were gambling, and the guys were cheating. So I said, I'm gonna stop playing. So the guy said, well, yeah, I think you need to stop. So I stood up and I said, well, let me walk outside. I walked outside and there was another guy that was outside. And he said, oh, they cheated you too? I said, yeah. So he said, well, let's go in here and let's do something about it. As soon as he said that, I noticed that I started walking towards him, but my movement was different. So I'm looking at myself, but I was like, that's not how I walk. That's the gestures that I was making. I was like, it seemed weird. So the guy started getting mad. I said, no, I'm gonna just leave it alone. He said, no, let's go in there. We're gonna fight. So he started coming towards me. I started coming towards him. But again, it's my body, but I'm walking and swinging my arms. Everything feels different and it looks different. So I walk up to him and me and the guy are face to face. And I look at this guy and I said, do you know who I am? And the guy says, no, I don't care who you are. And so I look at him and I say, I am Yeshua HaMashiach, right? And then I said, and my father is the Most High God. So he still tried to, get loud. So I took my hand, I took like 2 fingers and I placed it on his forehead. And it's like it just pulled everything out of the guy. So the guy hit the ground. And he was just kind of looking up at me because he was shocked. But when he hit the ground, I saw black balls of smoke leave out of his body. So the guy still was on the ground fussing. So I took my hand and I touched him again, and black balls of smoke left his body. And the guy said, okay, they're all out. They're all out. He kept screaming, they're all out. So one of the guys ran outside and I tried to grab one of the guys. And he saw what I was doing. So he ran away. But what I noticed was I ended up seeing that the spirit of Yeshua had entered my body. So that's when I started calling him Yeshua. So he was telling me that his name is not Jesus, it's Yeshua HaMashiach, and his
which is a Hebrew name for that goes back to the old Hebrew scriptures.
Right.
Like where that, yeah.
So, so later on, later on, as I prayed and talked, because you would hear people say, okay, well, no, that's just his Hebrew name. He said, no, that's my name. It's Yeshua. So not Jesus. So not Jesus. So that was something that I end up finding out how the J was never created. And also I started to, after that happened, I just started having more dreams of being in different places, not knowing where I was at. And I would see a long line of people like wrapped around the corner. And I'm looking like, who are these people here for? And this lady, she looks at me and she kind of gives me this signal with her hand, like, come over here to me. So I come over there and she kind of places me in the middle. So the people are in front and I'm looking at her like, okay, what's happening? What's going on? So she said, you will know. And I was like, I will know. She was like, yeah, you know what to do. So the people started walking up to me one by one and I would touch their foreheads. I would touch their chests. They would start to shake and they would drop and hit the ground. So they started coming to me one by one. And I was doing this, and I don't even know, still didn't really know what I was doing. Then it hit me and said, I'm casting demons out of these people. And the lady just was looking at me and she was smiling. So I had a lot of dreams with that. I mean, I started traveling in my dreams to different locations, performing deliverance. A lot of people don't know that, but people that have that gift of removing demons, sometimes you will work in your dreams. So my dreams would be so vivid and so real, it started to confuse me because sometimes, well, most of the times I couldn't even tell if I was up or if I was, if I was awake or asleep. It was hard to distinguish the two because I could smell, I could feel, I could taste,
almost like lucid dreaming where you're
right, exactly.
Aware. Yeah.
So yeah, I knew exactly what was going on. So I would just be traveling to different places and I would walk in a room and it's like people would be possessed and I would walk in and touch them and started removing demons from the people. So as all of this is going on, I this is a lot. So I'm trying to figure this stuff out, and I'm telling my family about it. And they're kind of looking at me like, well, yeah, we think that bump on the head, we think that kind of got him he imagining things and, think he may be going crazy. They wasn't saying that,
Not
but you know how you be just tell.
that's a natural thing to think,
Right, right.
and I was curious about that too. And I think just in I'm genuinely curious in all this, and wondered like, okay, is there a history of mental illness in your family too? Because that's a question any rational thinking person would have. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So no, there's not. And, it was one of those things. It's like that it was, I knew it was real. So I started seeing numbers a lot. And I remember I talked to another prophet and he was saying, yeah, that's sending you angel numbers. He said, you have this huge angel that's standing behind you right now. And this angel is saying that he's been waiting on you. So start looking these numbers up. So I started looking the numbers up and, I was being led to, like certain places to get the information for the numbers. And I was like, man, this number or this, this definition or this information is talking, it's speaking directly about the things that are really happening. So these numbers was just pretty much leading me and guiding me, and it was on point every single time. So,
and what way, like, and how so? What do you mean exactly there?
like for example, trying to think of one number. So I could get a number, and the number would say, continue to trust the process, right? So it would tell me that, and it would tell me I would get that message right during the time when I was starting to doubt things.
But how does
I
the
was like,
number tell you that?
well, what angel numbers? So this was it's this lady that she puts this information out that are connected to these numbers. So they say different meanings for different numbers. So
This is a real like, now you're
yeah,
not
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about a dream now. You're talking about a real
Well,
person.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
we're talking about a real person. So like I said, it was all new to me too. So I started to look them up, and yeah, I mean, they were all they were all on point. So they were saying they were
So
angel numbers.
who is this woman?
So her name is Joanne. Another website is like Joanne Sacred Scribes. So I would always go to this site,
So did
Joanne
you
Sacred Scribes.
you found her in trying to be like, okay, what am I supposed to do with these numbers kind of thing?
Right, right.
Oh,
And it was
okay.
one of those things. Yeah, it was one of those things like I knew to go because if you put in, let's just say angel number 444, it'd be a rack of things that pop up. But I knew to go directly to her.
But
So
does she
go ahead.
ever, have you ever gone to look up a number and, she doesn't have an answer for it, or it really isn't applicable? Like, are they always more like, trust in the process is a pretty general term, right? I
Mhm,
could put up a
mhm.
website with trust in the process, or, today you will face trials, or
Right, right.
tomorrow you will feel a rising. And you can, when with those loosely worded phrases, that's easy to apply to other
Oh yeah,
contexts. So
yeah, yeah.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, I was just trying to give you an example, but no, it would
Oh, okay.
be, yeah, yeah. Some of the meanings would be very deep. It'll say, it would be like, okay, you're going through a spiritual awakening now, or this is a tough time and you're almost at the end of this cycle. So it was giving me some deeper messages that I would see, or tell me you have a new gift that is about to open, and in about a week or two, that's what would happen. I would start doing something new with my gift. So it would be kind of in depth like that. So
Kind of sounds like
go ahead.
astrology almost. You hear people talking about this with that stuff. I don't know if you're like,
You got
uh,
some, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with it.
Okay.
So yeah, so the so again, I'm praying and I'm still learning. So I started finding feathers all over my house. So I'm like, where are these feathers coming from? So it would be feathers that would be uh, in my chair, in my room. I remember one day I was just walking and I was like, what is this poking in my foot? And I pulled my shoe off and it was a feather that was stuck in my sock. It was one time. even in my car, it was a feather that was like on the floor. So these feathers I was finding these feathers all over the place. So I was trying to figure out where are these feathers coming from. So I would just hear random voices, and it was saying that we are leaving feathers to let you know that we are close by. All right. So I would see that. I started finding coins. They would leave loose coins, and they would stack these coins in different formations, stack them on my steps. Sometimes I could be out and something to say, okay, go by the bathroom. I look in the chair and it's coins stacked up.
Are these like coins as in American currency?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you'd be like,
Okay.
dimes, quarters, pennies. Yeah. So I kept seeing that. Then it's like, it was always switching. So then I started seeing red cardinals, and I would see these cardinals like all over the place. Something would say, look out of the window, and I could look out and it'd be like this red cardinal just sitting right there looking at me.
And were you living alone at this time?
No, I was living with my family.
Okay.
So when I mean my family, this was my wife and my kids. So
okay.
So everything started moving. Everything just started moving so fast. And it was like, I felt like I was just thrown in this ocean. It's like, learn how to swim. I'm not sinking, but I'm like, this is all new to me. Like I said, it was coming so fast. So I just had a lot that was going on with these angels, these cartons. I remember one time I was at the gym and I came out and I told a friend, I said, watch this. I said, you see those red cartons over there? I say, they follow me and they're watching me. It was always, for the most part, 3 of them, sometimes 4. I said, watch this. I said, it's almost like they are protecting me. I said, we're going to walk over here and watch how they switch bushes. So we walked. As soon as I walked, they flew to the next bush. So wherever I would walk, they kept jumping around. So the guy got scared and he left. So I started noticing that I started getting up and was trying to move around more because my body was getting so stiff. So I was like, I gotta get up, I gotta move. Like I just can't just let myself sink like this. So I started moving around some, and I'm just walking down the steps normally. And it's almost like I get pushed. When I'm falling backwards. So, you can imagine someone falling backwards, swinging their hands, trying to catch themselves, just swinging my hands. So I swing my hands and I catch myself, right? But it's like everything is like at a pause. So I look up, and the way I caught myself, the way my arms were twisted and on these rails, it didn't even look like it was possible. So I got up and I was like, how could I do that? Like, how was I even able to do that? And then I heard a voice said that we won't let you get hurt. You're one of us.
I feel like we're doing a lot of wandering here. Like I noticed.
Yeah. Bouncing all around.
I want to try and direct this a little bit more. I get, you started moving around. I know you had mentioned that you were at the gym and then says you started moving around. I feel like we're kind of jumping around a little bit. So I just want to help try and guide this a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, because it's
there's a lot there. There's a lot here to unpack. And so along this long recovery process, you've now met and been made aware of Yeshua, which I had never heard of until I Googled it after, I researched for this episode. You've spoken with what you call the Most High God, and what it sounds like these angels were telling you is the Most High God, which makes sense because that's how you refer to him. Like now I have context for that. And you already touched on the fact that you started feeling like you were delivering people in your dreams from demons. And I want to carry all of these things into what you do now, because you offer these services. You offer spiritual counseling, deliverance is part of your services. You say you're a pranic healer, and I think life coaching and mentoring, and then some of these spatial cleansing things. And so I want to step through. So over time, it sounds like you were introduced to all of these concepts through these visions and these dreams that you were having, interacting with these angels. And I realized that was a long process, but when you think of that in the context of where you're at today and what you're doing, and these are the things that I want to get into. These were all themes that came up through these visions and these interactions with these angels. And is that correct? Okay. And so let's go through these things one by one, because I'm curious how all this works. And also I noticed, there's like, because your assistant had set up basically an introductory call for us before we talked a couple days ago for 20 or 30 minutes and kind of touched on some of this stuff. But you and we both discussed religion, that we're not necessarily religious. Obviously you are speaking to God, and I'm not, I can't live your experiences. So I'm not one to say whether or not that is real or not. And that's why we're discussing these things. But I'm curious because you touch on these different things, like with Yeshua, that comes from old Hebrew scripture. You touch on using feng shui, which is like an old ancient Chinese, basically philosophy for organizing spaces. And you talk about these pranic healing sessions, which come from Hinduism. So I'd like to step through all of these things kind of one by one.
Yes. Yeah, we could do it that way. Yeah, because like I said, it's so much
There's a
information, so
lot.
trying to condense it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So yeah.
let's step through spiritual counseling. Is this when you're meeting with someone? I noticed it looks like you do 30-minute sessions typically. When someone's meeting with you and I come to you for a spiritual counseling session, what's going on there? Are you channeling input that you're getting from God or from one of these angels? How does all that work? What's going on in these sessions?
Okay. So the way it normally works, so I normally get people that come to me, so they have like very severe cases. I get a lot of people that have been to the church and they can't get help from the church, or let's just say they've been to somebody else and it's not working. So then they'll end up coming to me to see if I can help. So
Can you give me like a
they'll
generic
schedule.
example of like
Yeah.
what this issue would be?
Right. So everybody's stuff is different, but mostly people say I have bad anxiety, depression, suicidal, things that are moving in their bodies. They can't keep money. A lot of things that their cars or appliances are breaking down around the house. They're
Just
seeing shadow
general life
figures.
stuff.
Yeah. So there'll be a lot of that. So they'll come to me, they'll schedule the session. So during this session, what I'm able to do before they tell me anything, what I can do with the gift that I have, I can look at the person and then I'm able to see if they have a demonic spirit. So if I see that, I'm able to get the name, and it's going to be more than one. So I'll get the names of the spirits, and then I'm able to find out and tell them how these spirits entered them. So I can tell you how the spirits attached to them. And then once I identify all of that, then I'll pray to remove those spirits. So the prayers will trigger the deliverance. So I have on TikTok, I don't know if you've been on my page, but on TikTok, my prayers and some of my deliverance sessions, it's kind of too much for people because I got one case when I was praying over a female up there, and she starts to spit up all of this poison. And
What do you mean by poison?
so what happened is these demons, they will feed people in their dreams. So you have people that say, okay, I'm eating in my dream. So it looks like it's food. It could be chicken, it could be steak, it could be cake. So they're sitting there and they're eating this food, not knowing that these are actually body parts of the demons. So this is a way for these spirits to load up in the person. So this is actually poison. So
So what does it come out as?
when it comes out, it's green. So it looks
It's
like
like
different
bile.
chunks, kind of chunks of, we can never tell, but it's like chunky. And this one case, it was green mixed with a little blood with her situation.
Does it look different than puke?
Yeah. It definitely looks different than just regular throw up.
Okay.
And Another example, a young lady, I was praying for her, and then her nose starts to bleed, and you can see chunks of like mucus coming out of the nose.
Which that seems natural if it's her nose. Not that
Yeah,
it was praying, like not that
yeah,
it was derived from praying, but yeah.
right, right. So yeah, so the blood starts coming out of her nose, and I had another situation. I've had someone urinate on themselves, defecate, because when these spirits come out, these are the different ways that it can come out. You know, it can come out through tears, sweat, itching,
Yeah.
urine.
So when you say that and you're assigning all of this to demons, like I guess where's that knowledge coming from? Where you're like you said, okay, these demons can be feeding people basically their toxic body parts and their dreams. Where are you deriving that from?
So what happens? One of my gifts is knowledge will come to me. What I had to do before, and that's why I say that's why it's hard to kind of stay on one lane because when I start explaining this will cause me to jump to something else in order to explain that. But but I have to go back to explain that. So I started getting knowledge because I was getting messages to go sun gaze, to go look at the sun for 30 minutes a day, to go look 30 minutes before the sun, before it, what is it, when it sets, and when it's going up and when it's coming down. So I had to look at it 30 minutes
Staring at the sun?
directly at the sun.
You don't have any vision issues from it?
Well, no, because when you have that 30-minute window, you got 30 minutes to look and you're all right. And when it's setting, you got 30 minutes to look. Uh, and so when I was connecting with the sun, the first time I did this, I saw all of this look like electricity that was running through the sun, all of these like thunderbolts, and it hit my eyes. So I didn't really know what was going on. So I was doing this every day, but what was happening was this is how I was gaining knowledge. So it's almost like hooking up to the Most High God who was downloading things in me. So I
You're
was
just
start
having these weird experiences like this where then all of a sudden you're made aware of something new, essentially.
right, right,
Okay.
exactly. So yeah, yeah.
And
So the information is just
and
being poured into me.
and I'm gonna keep trying to guide this stuff a
Okay.
little bit, just so because I it is hard to
Yeah.
there's so much here. So you're operating on this evidence or not this information that you've gained over time through all of these various experiences, some of them being spoken to you, some of them being these almost secondary experiences caused by following some other direction that you've been given. And so with these deliverance sessions, I mean, these are you always able to determine or identify a demon and expel them?
Yeah. So the way I go about the delivery session, so I go about it two different ways when I'm doing it. So when I start praying, depending on how severe it is, but I mean it's to the point now it's high level demons. So um I start off with the prayer, so that triggers the deliverance. All right. So I can start destroying the demons from the prayers. You know, some people, like I said, different people had different reactions with the throwing up. People will burp, they'll cough, they'll sneeze, they'll yarn. Um, that's the spirits leaving out of the body. So that's the first step. So the case is so severe that I have to fly out to that person. Now, jumping back to the angels again, the angels have shown me how to make what we call deliverance baths. All right. So they've taught me different ingredients. So everything is holistic, different things that you can grab right out of your pantry. And they show me how to mix these things.
Like what?
So, like prime example, like baking soda, sea salt, Epsom salt, water. All right. So I can take that and I can mix it. Okay. But when I pray over that, the prayer is like an anointing. So it's the power of the Most High God or Yeshua. When I pray, I can pray to have that turn to liquid fire. Now, when I told this lady that, and I brought the baths to her, she started laughing. She said, okay, I have all this stuff going on and you're bringing me these baths in these mason jars with this water and you saying it's fire. She started laughing. And I
Do
told
you
her,
have
I said, I don't,
videos of you making this combust?
I don't because that's not something that I show people because
Why
I'm
not
making
though?
the because I'm making these baths to destroy demons. So if anybody tries to go make that bath and try to take it, see what happens is when you're trying to kill demons, they come after the person who's trying to remove them. So let's just say if you walked in the room and you saw me making these deliverance baths and you said, okay, well, I'm gonna start making them. And now I'm going to start giving them to people. Okay. Let's just say you start giving them to people.
Yeah, but
Um,
I don't have the ingredients because I'm not being spoken to by God. So this is why I like why
you don't
not
have the
show
anointing. Well, no, no,
yes.
no. You don't,
So
yeah. You
but
don't have the anointing, but the bath is still, so it won't be as strong, So the way I can make them and the way you make them is going to be a different, but you
yeah,
still
but why
can make
wouldn't
it.
but if I don't have the power to make it to turn that into liquid fire, why wouldn't you show other people you turning that into liquid fire?
Well, that's the thing because still, just because you're not turning it into liquid fire, just by you mixing those ingredients, that is enough to still cause some havoc with those spirits. See what I'm saying? So I have that's of course that's my that's my job, and I have a level of protection. But if you're not called to do that, then that'll change that for you.
Hmm.
If that
Okay.
makes sense. To you. Yeah.
So
So
with what's that?
yeah, that's just like I tell people. People will read these deliverance books and take these classes, and they don't have. Let's just say they don't have any calling, so they're not
Yeah, but
being.
do you so I'm curious because like
Mhm.
these it sounds like these are people who are coming to you at a desperate time and you're telling them these things without necessarily proof and it like so that I guess I'm confused as to how like do you have results every time? How does all that
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
okay.
this is the thing, okay? So the proof would be like the one woman, like I was just explaining to you about, how she started laughing and she says, "Okay, well, uh, this is just water, sea salt, and I know you say all this stuff about the fire. Ha ha ha! I don't believe it." Okay, she takes the first bath, and next thing I know, my assistant is trying to get a hold of me. She's like, I think you need to call this woman. So I'm like, what's happening? So she took her first bath and she's calling. She's in panic mode. She said when she got in the bath, she saw something moving back and forth in her stomach. She told me, she said, you know how a woman's pregnant and the baby touches the stomach and push, and you can see the handprint. She
Uh,
said, I saw something in my stomach moving like that. So she saw this.
sounds like something
So
out of a scary movie.
right. So
Yeah.
that was her proof. But I mean, not only that, I got another I have another lady that I'm working with and a very severe case. And she actually had what we call a spiritual pregnancy. People
Well,
don't
and
know, but
so like for these sessions, it sounds I mean, you're continuing to work with this woman and it sounds like these sessions are in person ones. And I noticed, I think it was for maybe for some of your pranic healing sessions, which I want to start to shift into like that's like $150 for half hour. So how does that work when you're flying out and all that stuff? I mean, I would imagine this stuff has to add up pretty quickly, right?
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
By the time you coming in and you are traveling, you got a hotel stay, you got a car. But that's the thing. It's just not that simple. It's a lot of things I have to prepare when I come out, and it's a lot of attacks that I've been through.
Do you ever get pushback from clients that they feel like they're being strung along at all? Or how has your experience been with all that so far?
So far it's pretty good because I'm the type of guy, I'm always up front.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what I can do and what I can't do. That's number
Okay.
one. Uh,
So let's start to shift because we've covered deliverance a little bit here. I know there's probably an endless list of stories and things that we could dive into with that, but I think the next thing you mentioned on your website was pranic healing, which this was the thing that I hinted at earlier that when I looked into is actually comes from Hinduism and is based around the sentiment of chakras and this direction of energy in the body, which in and of itself is a kind of a fuzzy subject because there's no when you look at the peer-reviewed literature, there's no empirical data that supports these practices, these therapeutic touch practices. But there are meta-analyses that point to purported benefits that people have post-treatment. And I'm curious, there's this specifically because you offer these services digitally as well, like over Zoom, like we're doing right now. And I looked into this pranic healing. It seems like when you read how this works online, like you need to be in person because you're sensing energy in close proximity. You're not touching someone, but you are in very close proximity to their bodies. And essentially, from what I could tell, obviously I can't watch any videos because I'm totally blind, but you're supposed to guide your hands over their body and feel where you feel heat or cold or heavy or light, and try and interpret what that is. So first of all, are you trained in any of that formally? And then how are you conducting those virtually? How does that work?
Okay. So again, I have to shift to something else to let you know more about that.
Just,
And,
I mean, and it does, you don't have to make it, you can try and be just more direct with it in the sense of, was this that training for this, let's say?
So this was no
through more interactions.
So this right here was no training. The only training I had was dreams when I saw myself touch. Well, I wasn't even really touching people. I was holding my hands over things that I saw that appeared to me like they were dead, like a horse. I saw some cells. It's like cells when you're looking under a microscope, and I placed my hand, so they wasn't moving, and I placed my hand over it, and they started moving.
And this is in a dream?
Yeah, that's in a dream. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the horse was laying down, and I placed my hand over the horse, and the horse got up. When I looked up, I saw myself, and I was standing with these beings. So these beings were all standing beside each other.
So I get that it came from more of these visions and these interactions, but I'm saying in practice, because it does seem to be something from everything that I've read online that is supposed to be done in person and by someone who has some formal training, and to the extent that even though there's not empirical data backing these practices themselves, it does say that the meta-analyses that point to some anecdotal benefits from these do say that it can be dangerous if someone's not trained. So I'm curious, how are you actually conducting these?
So what I do is I do everything virtually. All right.
And this is how I'm asking how, if you're supposed to be feeling their energy.
Right. So what I can do virtually, that's all I have to do is place my hand up. So when I place my hand, the energy will automatically start traveling to that area. So let's just say if you have a shoulder issue. So I would tell you, I'll say, take your hand and place your hand on your shoulder. And so I will take my hand and place it up at the screen. And I will ask the angels to start touching your hand. And then you will start feeling things happening in your shoulders. It's different for everybody. Some people say they feel heat. Some people feel a tingling sensation. And that's pretty much how it goes. So I never put my hands on anyone. Yeah. You put your hands on yourself. Yeah.
Could you could you show that for an example right now?
So when you mean like in terms of
like my body's beat up, I'm curious. So I guess, well, yeah, that might not be fair because I'm not a paying customer, but I was going to say like, okay, right now, could you identify something in me that's really like, I've got one particular injury that's from jujitsu that's been bugging me for a couple months now. And I was curious, but maybe that's probably not fair to just put you on the spot like that.
Well, I mean, so is it like you're saying that you have pain in your shoulder? Is that what you're saying?
It's not my shoulder. Somewhere? I'm not saying where, because I was curious if you could.
Oh, yeah. Well, no. So I'm not a medical intuitive, so I can't look and say I can see it. No, I asked you and you would tell me where it's at.
Oh, okay. That was a disconnect on my end.
Yeah, but and that's something else. I used to be a medical intuitive, but again, that would, that'll be another whole can of worms. But yeah, so
It's
no,
another thing to dive
yeah,
into.
yeah.
Okay,
So no, yeah.
cool.
I don't know. I can't see it. Yeah. You would just tell me, and I would just say, place your hand on it.
Okay. That makes more sense. That's more logical. I thought you were saying you could sense it through the computer.
Oh no, 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 no,
Um,
no, no.
and with so because you mentioned that you work with animals too. How do you do that with animals? I guess you have the owner be like, "Hey, my dog is limping on this left leg."
Yeah, well, I had a someone that they had their dog. So of course, we did the Zoom session, and she was just saying that the dog, what do you call it? That social anxiety. So the dog was just
Separation
kind of like,
anxiety.
yeah, separate.
Yeah.
And so the dog was just kind of like all over the place. So, I said, just place the dog on the bed, and just did the same thing. But of course, I didn't tell the dog to touch his arm or
Yeah.
touch his head.
Yeah.
I just the dog. She's kind of held the dog there, and I just placed my hand, and you could see that the dog was just getting very, very relaxed, and it just kind of laid there, and then it started falling asleep. And then she was like, "Okay, he's starting to rest now," because at first it was all over the place. And actually, with this same lady, I had to come to her home because the dog would not go inside of the cage. But to find out it was demonic spirits in the house, so that's how I had to do a house cleansing for her. So once I came in, and when I come in, I'm able to call in Archangel Michael and come in, and I use something called dragon's blood is what I use. And
What is that?
so dragon's blood, so this comes from the dragon tree. So these trees are like in Asia. And what happens is it's the sap that comes from the tree, so it's red. So it's called dragon's blood. So I get it in a resin. So it looks like a rock. So I take like a piece of charcoal, and I can place this resin. And when I burn it, demons don't like this. So this runs demons out of the house. So some people have portals in the home, and then I'm able to ask the angel to close that. So long story short, once I left, they contacted me maybe like an hour or two later, and they said they couldn't believe it. The dog was finally going in the cage and was sleeping in the cage, and it had been 2 months, and they didn't know what was going on.
Look at you making a perfect segue, man. You kind of helped segue into the house
The house
cleansing
cleansing.
stuff. But
Yeah.
I meant to ask you too, because you've mentioned that you worked with some celebrities. Who have you worked with?
I can't mention that.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Okay. I had to
yeah.
try, man. I had
But
to.
but I will, yeah. But I will tell you this. Like one of the people, they are
Does
real
it
big.
rhyme
Like
with does it rhyme with Deminem?
no,
Oh, okay.
one of them they're real big, like in the gospel, and another one is like they're real big in like the R&B.
Mm. Was it
Then I have
Diddy?
some rappers. Oh no, they look at definitely
All
want him. They definitely
right.
want him. You need to come to me so I can help him though.
Yeah,
See,
he's
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
he's gonna need something to fix his butt after he gets out of prison, man. But so yeah, let's move into the house cleansing stuff. You talked about dragon's blood a little bit and the burning and the charcoal, but you also on your website you mentioned feng shui. Was
yeah.
that something that you took up on your own, or was that, or actually no, your
That's
website says that the angels have directed you
angels,
through
right,
that.
right, right.
Okay.
So
S-
yeah, so they just directed me and was just telling me that you want to. Would you like to say something?
I didn't realize you were about to start talking. I was just going to mention like, um, they're directing you like what furniture needs to be moved where and stuff like that? Because a lot of that seems to be, it's like harmonizing a space. So
Right, right.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so you're just moving stuff and shifting stuff. You're just changing the energy around, the flow of
Okay.
energy. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. People don't understand, but everything is energy. Everything is energy.
I
So
mean, I think the human race understands that in physics, it's, it's the ability to do something. It's like the ability to do work is how it's very largely and loosely defined. I guess when are you sensing this stuff directly somehow? Like, do you get an actual feeling of these things, or are you following these directions?
actual feeling of what are you talking about, the feng shui stuff or what?
I guess for all, it sounds like for a lot of it, you might be following directions as much as you're feeling. But yeah, I mean, like when I read into the pranic healing stuff, it talks about, you know, you might feel a heat spot as you're hovering over someone or a cold spot. With any of this stuff, do you get like a guttural feeling of anything, an actual sensation?
Yeah, sometimes because at one point, I was working with like cancer patients
Uh-huh.
and I was, because I'm also what they call an empath, so I absorb the energy. And what was happening was I was absorbing that energy. It was making me feel sick, you know. So it was different things that I had to learn. You know, I had to cleanse myself off because I was, you know, I was absorbing all of that stuff that they had. So yeah, I can feel different things. Yeah. So yeah, it's so much supernatural stuff. Some of it is unbelievable. But the good thing about me, I have a lot of pictures, and I tell people, if you go to my website, people leave testimonies. I got over 100 testimonies of people, you know, talking about their experience. You know.
Yeah. Could you, my blindness, I was gonna say, because like my blindness, it may have been, I mean, now I wouldn't imagine I have any demonic spirits on me, but I don't know when it was caused, you know, because I was in a very, I think I told you during our pre-meeting call, I lost my sight to a suicide attempt. Like, and I noticed on your website, you mentioned, I think being able to, you know, some of these, um, deliverances can fix depression and these other things. Is that something that you feel I would have benefited from, or do you make those
Oh
claims?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
that seems like
yeah.
it
Most
that seems like
yeah,
it
most
could
of that.
also be a very dangerous claim to be making, because if you've got someone coming to you at that point that low, and I think your website mentions even suicidal ideations, like that's if you can't fix something, then that's a very dangerous thing to posit for someone who's struggling that badly.
I think this is one thing that I can say, and I'm humbly saying this. I've had people that come to me, like I said, with depression, bad anxiety, suicidal, those type of things. I can't say that there's been a time that the deliverance has not worked. If it's been a time that it hasn't worked, it's because the person they gave up. And when I mean gave up, sometimes I run into people and the demons can overpower the person and it'll have them stop taking the baths. So of course, if you stop the process, then the process won't work. But I can't tell you that I had a person that went through the process correctly and it didn't work. Yeah, it's working every time. And I tell people, see, this is the one thing I think people get confused, and I think it's hard for them to understand because I think they are looking at me in terms of doing the healing. I have to explain to them, don't look at me. I'm the vessel, you know, so it's what's inside of me. So it's the Most High God, it's Yeshua that's doing the healing. It's Yeshua and the Most High God that's doing the delivery. So they're never going to fail. Like it's going to happen every single time. Again, as long as you complete what I'm giving you, you know, you do the things I'm telling you to do, then you'll be delivered. I mean, I have people that I've worked with that have been on Xanax. I'm working with a young lady right now. We're right at the end of her deliverance. She's been on psych meds for over uh, 20 years, you know. So this has been the first time that she's been off of the psych meds, and that's been over a month. No psych meds. She hasn't been able
It
to get a
takes
job.
it takes longer than a month for those meds to get out of your system. It's I don't I guess
Well, yeah, because she tried to come off them one time, and her mom said within 4 days she was back in the psych ward. So I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. This is the longest that she's been off of the psych meds and been able to be stable without having to go back to the psych ward.
okay.
So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So yeah, and she couldn't get a job, and she got and I told her she had a job coming, and she said she sent me the email and sent me her letter of congratulations, and it's the highest paying job that she ever got. So again, this stuff is supernatural, and the way I see that most people's minds work, I know people try to run to books and they try to read and they try to research, and I tell people all the time, what I do in the books and stuff, it doesn't add because it's supernatural stuff. sometimes when you see this stuff, there's no logic. Like people can't understand. People can't understand if you're praying for someone and a lady starts to bleed, okay, and she has a pad and the face of the demon forms on the pad. They don't understand that. They don't understand that they see things that look like snakes coming out in the bathtub. They don't understand these things.
Do you have pictures and videos of that stuff?
I have some pictures. Yeah, I have pictures of everything. What I said, I told you snakes coming out. I posted that. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I actually have pictures of the lady with the pads with the face of the deep. So yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah, everything I talk about for the most part, yeah, I have
except
pictures
for
and stuff.
the burning water.
Right, yeah. I don't have no water that picture with fire coming from the water. No,
Okay.
but I do have I had a couple that I was working with, and I was working with his wife, and she was into witchcraft for like over 30 some years. And I told him, I said, record the audio. So she made the baths, and as soon as she stepped in the bath, you hear all of these voices coming out of her, and she's screaming. She's saying, the fire is burning. Then the voice changed. The fire is burning. The fire, all these like different voices, and it's saying how the fire is burning. So that was a long story too. Yeah, and that's on audio. Yeah, that's on audio.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I think the last thing offered on your website is the life coaching stuff. It seems like it would be hard for you to mentor people because you're on a very unique path. So like how's that operating? How's that different than this spiritual counseling?
So I'm gonna tell you, with the life coaching, normally it's people that are coming to me with gifts. I used to work with a group of gifted people, but I started getting busy and started having less and less time.
Do you ever find that some of them are mentally ill? Like
No.
your family had questions about you, so I was curious if you ever had those experiences.
No, I mean, when they come to me, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, like my mother had a gift or my father had a gift that's kind of being passed down, but they don't know how to operate it. So my thing is to try to guide, because this stuff is very, very tricky. Like I work with, of course, spiritual people, religious people, pastors, prophets, a little bit of everybody. But this stuff is very, very tricky, okay? You have the religious people who are constantly pointing and saying the spiritual people are doing witchcraft. But then you have the spiritual people saying that the religious people, because they're doing different things within their religion, that is witchcraft. So it's twisted. I could take a cross, right? I could show you a cross with your shoe on it. And I can ask you, so if I was to show you a cross, I say, okay, what, just in one or two words, what would that represent to you? Just a cross.
Christianity.
Okay. So if I took that cross and I flipped it upside down, what would that represent to you then?
In movies, that's typically something satanic or devilish. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's my point. So you can take something that's good and it can be twisted, and that's how it is. And the stuff, like I said, is very, very bad. And so many things that people don't know with this stuff. And I've learned it from working with it so much. So I try to guide them to keep them on the right path, because you'll hear people and they'll tell you, they'll say, you know what, especially religious people, psychics are demonic. That's what they'll say. All right. So then I'll have to come back and I have to correct them. And I'll say, well, why do you feel that way? The only thing that I see that they run to, they'll say, oh, it doesn't say it anywhere in the Bible, or the Bible says this. So then I have to correct them. And I'd say, being psychic is not demonic. That's a gift. So that's a gift that's coming from the Most High God. But what's demonic is if the psychic starts jumping into these other things, starts jumping into tarot, starts jumping into a lot of the Wicca things. So now we're switching things up. So it's not the gift that's demonic, it's how they're using gifts. Now, when I see a person in the church, they call themselves a seer. And that's fine to say that they're a seer because they're in the church, that's not demonic. But then I have to explain to them a seer still has psychic abilities. You see what I'm saying? Because they can see into the supernatural. So, you know, yeah. I just try to
Yeah.
keep them on the right path in terms of.
I mean, but what if there's other prophets out there, and I mean, even like the Mormon church, for example, is led by someone who says he's a prophet. Why are you the one who is, I guess, more in this leadership role / why you're more qualified for this stuff?
Well, I can see how people could say that, and I tell people all the time, you know, you want to make sure that don't just trust anybody just like that. You know, always ask questions. But I say more so, watch what they do rather than what they say. If you follow that person long enough, and one thing about it, by having a website, you can't control a website. You can't control Google reviews. If I came up here right now and I said, you know, I want you to touch your eyes and bring your vision back. And so I start praying and that doesn't happen. And then you say, okay, well, I'm gonna go on Google and write a review. There's really no way I can stop that. There's no way I can stop that. So I've been doing this now for about 7 years. So I guess what I'm trying to get at, if you're not who you say you are and you have
That's
a
gonna show.
website and you have Google, I can't see how you would be able to skate by this long. You see what I'm saying?
I saw that on your website. I think when I looked 2 days ago, I think it was 108 all 5-star reviews on there. So yeah, I saw that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so and that's what I was telling you, because again, I'm up front, you know, I'm not one of those ones that you know, I want to be the best out here. I want to be the biggest one. I'm going to be the most powerfulest one. For me, it's not about that. You know, I go in, I do what I do, and I explain that it's not even coming from me. It's coming from the Most High God. It's coming from, you should give him the credit. You know, again, I'm just the vessel. I'm just here to do what I got to do. So yeah, I'm not, you know, I run into a lot of this stuff with like the egos and, you know, and how many followers you got and how, you know, that stuff to me, it just
Social
doesn't
media
matter.
kind of
Yeah.
BS. Yeah.
You know, I was always told before I started this, when I would pray, and I remember Yeshua told me this. He told me, he said, just let your work speak for itself. So, you know, and that's what I tell people. You know, I don't have to talk about it, boast or brag, but I say, you know, the reviews won't lie. You know, if you're not doing what you're doing, somebody's going to say, this guy is fake.
All right. Well, I think that's a perfect place to kind of, in terms of saying, let your work speak for itself. Well, we've been over your website. You've written a book. Do you want to tell people where to find it?
Oh yeah.
What it's
So
called?
you can so it's called The Woke Prophet. So I'm actually holding up a picture of the book now. So yeah, it's called The Woke Prophet, and it's a whole nother story behind this book as well. I went through it. And so that's the problem when I'm trying to talk to people about stuff. It's been so
There's a
much
lot
stuff
there.
that's
Yeah.
happens. And yeah, so we'll be bouncing around and bouncing because one thing connects to another thing. But yeah, it was a lot of drama with this
Yep.
book.
And
Yeah.
I just, you know, I had set a time, an hour and a half for this today, and we're about at that. So we don't have time to
Right.
actually
To
dive
really get
into
into
that story
Yeah.
in and of itself. But what's the book about? And then where did the woke part of the woke prophet come from?
So the book is just about my journey from the beginning to the end. Like I said, it's a lot of information that of course, we didn't have a chance to cover. So I talk about that. I talk about a lot of the lies that we've been told. I call this the upside down world. Pretty much everything we've been taught is lied. A lot of people are programmed.
Are you combating these things that you're calling lies with citations, or are you're combating them with your own anecdotal experiences?
Yeah. So I'm coming from a place of me praying and the knowledge that I'm getting from Yeshua, or the knowledge I'm getting from angels.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's coming from there. And yeah, you can get the book from Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's also on my website. That's www.GIB energetic hands with an S.com. So you can also get it off of there as well. And I know we didn't even have a chance to cover the whole light body, but again, I knew it was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot to go through, and I knew there was a lot to go through.
And we just chipped the surface, man. I mean, it's a lot. I just tell people, I have a deliverance prayer. I actually got a deliverance prayer in the back of the book, and people have been telling me they've been reading it, they've been vomiting, throwing up, so they've been getting delivered.
You're probably one of the few people that gets that feedback about their book. Like, man, I've been reading your book. It's been making me puke. But
right.
All right.
Yeah, man.
I know you're big on TikTok. Do you want to tell people your handle on there so they can find you?
So go on TikTok. I'm under the Woke Prophet. Of course, it's fake account, so that's up there. So make sure this the account. I believe it's over 41,000. So that is me. Also YouTube under the Woke Prophet as well. Okay. So those are the main two I work with, but TikTok is the main one that I'm on.
Sweet, man. I'll throw the link to your website in the show notes so people will be able to follow that when they listen, if they just go to the description underneath the show. And yeah, there was more to unpack here than I thought.
Right. And see, there was a lot. And I'm gonna make sure real quickly I explain to the people. I know this was a lot of bouncing around, but again, it's so much, and there's a lot I want to tell, and it's hard to condense this stuff. You think an hour and 30 minutes is a lot of time, but once you start getting to this stuff and talking, we'll eat right through it. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get another opportunity to get together.
Yeah, this podcast isn't going anywhere. So
yes,
man. Thanks for coming on.
All right, appreciate you.
Yeah, everyone at home, thanks for listening to episode 6 of Going In Blind. And to everyone at home, thank you for listening. Please take a second to help me grow the show so that I can keep delivering these conversations week after week for years to come. Subscribe, rate, and review the show in whatever podcasting app you're using right now, and check out the show notes to follow me on social media and YouTube as well. When you share your favorite episodes, tag me and use the hashtag GoingInBlind. You can also join my mailing list at zachtidwell.net. And if you know someone you think I should talk to, have them send me an email at contact.goinginblind@gmail.com.